Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Angelica Nagy, and this is a literary odyssey where we talk about books and pretty much anything that I want to post, but I normally post about book reviews and book related items. So today's video, I'm going to try to keep it kind of short, but it's going to be my first January month in a review where I talk about the books that I read in the month of January. There's one book that I will be briefly talking about because I haven't created an independent book review on it yet, as well as the books that I plan on reading in February. So let's just begin the video. The three books that I read in the month of January was the Stock Market 101, which I have created an independent video book review on, and I'll link that down below in the description bar. I also read The Book Thief. Wonderful book, gave it 5 stars, choked me up at the end, and I thought it was amazing how the narrator was deaf. But more detail into that will be in the description bar because I also created an independent book review on this one as well. Now, the book that I just finished actually this morning is called For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood, and the rest of y'all, which is by Christopher Edmin. And let me first start off by saying this book was not something that I personally selected. This was a book that my administration at my school selected for all the teachers, and we were assigned to read it and discuss it and kind of have, not a debate on it, but just talk about our thoughts on it. And I will say, I'm just going to go into the review of this book because that's what I was talking about in the beginning. This is the only book that I don't have a standalone review on, and it will not be getting a standalone review because if I could rate this book a 0, I would. I absolutely hated this book. Every single teacher at my school hated this book. And the writer of this book is, first, you got to say it's an African American man talking about his thoughts on how white people or white folks can't teach in urban communities. Now, let me first start off with, if anyone reads this book and thinks by the color of my skin I'm white, I'm not. First of all, I was literally born and raised in the hood in New York City. I'm 100% Latin. But in this book, he goes on to what he believes, voice his thoughts on how white folks who teach in the hood are somehow going into this career with the idea that they're going to be saviors or that they're going to save these kids. And it made me absolutely upset because I'm thinking his whole idea of creating this book was to showcase the bias of white folks, when in fact this entire book is just highlighting his bias towards white people. So like I said, I'm not white, so I'm not offended that he's talking about white people. But I work in a Title I school, meaning 80% of my student body is poor. And I want to say 95% of the student body in my school is black. Okay? So I love my students. I'm connected to my students, but the entire time in this book, he makes it seem like white folks are going in to try to save kids and that white folks are trying to teach them the proper way to behave and act in order to succeed. And no, absolutely not. I wasn't feeling it at all. And then when we had discussions in the meetings with all the teachers, even my black teachers were like, I can't curse on this video, but let's just say they weren't feeling it either. So I want to say, first of all, this first 2 chapters, when I read them, I was fuming around my house. I was angry with how he just assumes, and I know as a teacher, I've already seen it. There's always someone we got to point the finger at and blame for the students failing in the education system. So why not blame the teachers, right? But to sit there and sum up and categorize every teacher who is white, trying to save black kids in the hood. Anywho, so I personally believe the whole book is him showcasing how he got biased towards white people. I mean, there's not really much more I can say. Yeah, later on in the book, he starts to give some suggestions as to how he connected with his urban kids, but it was nothing prolific. It was nothing that I wasn't already doing in my own classroom or walked around and seen white teachers doing in their classroom. And what blows my mind is the entire time in this book, he makes it seem like white teachers only teach in this formula of like a evil, mean, like nun or whatever, when in fact in my school I work with some of the most loving, dedicated teachers. Now I will say me and some of my teachers agree that mind you, I'm an elementary teacher. I teach 3rd grade. So it's very apparent that this book, he's talking about high school. So yeah, I guess it is an entirely different atmosphere, but to not indicate what grade you're talking about and then go on to assume what teachers think of students. Anyways, I ain't got nothing else to say about this book. I was happy when I got to the end. I actually wanted to write a strongly worded letter to this guy because I'm not okay with this book. So I'm not going to waste no more time on it. For whoever thinks this book is prolific or whatever, that's on you. If you want to comment why you think this book was good, because it was highly rated, which blows my mind. But if you want to try to convince me otherwise, that this book is just not a big work of, apparently he just don't like white teachers. Like, there is a portion in this book where he truly thought that in order to get a teacher to connect with their African American body of students was to take him to a black church. I don't know. You got to sit there and read the book yourself, because for me, it was 100% a no. It was a flop. I wasn't feeling it. And for someone who, like I said, was raised, born in Brooklyn and raised in the Bronx and went to nothing but public schools. And like I said, I ain't even white. I'm Latin. I'm Hispanic, 100%. And for me to be offended by this, that says something. But moving on. What I'm going to talk about now is some potential books that I might read in the next upcoming month. I do want to read The Help. I was hoping to kind of like showcase my copy, but for some reason I can't find my copy, and I know it's around here because I saw it yesterday. So that is definitely a book I've heard some amazing things about. I know they got a movie. Never seen the movie, but I kind of know a little bit about the book from what other people have said about it. I'm really excited to read that book because it's definitely been on my TBR for a very long time. Another book that I'm hoping to finish in the month of February is Mr. and Mrs. Pennington. I'm struggling really, really bad with this book. This book is one of the New York Times bestseller that came out, I want to say 1932 or 1933. And I've been reading this bad boy, I want to say, for like 2 or 3 months. And I find it absolutely miserable to read this book. The only reason why now I'm even continuing to read it is because you all know my goal is to read all the books on the New York Times bestseller, whether good or bad. And this just so happens to be one of the books on the list, and I'm struggling through it. Like, I can't even read 2 pages at a time without actually passing out. This book sucks, but I'm going to get through it because I only have like a little, I don't even want to say I have a little bit more, because this book is thicker than a mother. So I have to read the rest of that. So that's The Help. And then finishing up Mr. and Mrs. Pennington. I haven't decided yet what next book I want to kind of pursue, but I do know that I want to read a child book in the month of February, because on my Goodreads, which I'll link down below, I like to read books for the elementary higher levels, like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, just so that parents at home could know which books are really good. It might inspire their kids to want to read more, or just in general, amazing books to get your kids. Because I mean, in order for kids to get good at reading, you literally have to make sure that you got books for them. I think I might continue my series on the classical start books. But other than that, if you got through this whole video, thank you for staying the entire time. I was not planning on that like book review or overview going that long. It's just I got real heated about that book. I did not like that book. And we're continuing our conversation on that book on the teachers' meetings, because I just so happened to read through the entire book because I was just trying to get done with it. But in all honesty, we're supposed to only be on like chapter 5. With that being said, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching the video. And I look forward to doing an independent book review on Mr. and Mrs. Pennington and The Help.